I heard the fork hit the plate before I heard my sister say the words that would change everything. It was Thanksgiving. Golden light was pouring through the dining room windows of our childhood home in Naperville, Illinois. The smell of roasted turkey and my mother's cranberry sauce hung in the air. Everything looked perfect. Everything felt like a lie. My sister Claire leaned back in her chair, twirling her wine glass, and smiled at me across the table. "So, Linda," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness, "I guess now's as good a time as any to tell you Mom and Dad are signing the house over to me. You're getting nothing." The room went silent. My fork was halfway to my mouth. I set it down slowly. My parents, my own parents, wouldn't even look at me. My father studied his plate. My mother reached for her water glass. "What?" I managed to say. Claire shrugged, still smiling. "They're putting the house in my name. It's already decided. I mean, it makes sense, right? I've always been here for them. You moved away. You made your choices." I had moved away. To Milwaukee. 45 minutes north. For a job. 6 years ago. That's when I knew. The last 28 years of my life, everything I thought I understood about my family, had been a carefully constructed illusion. Let me take you back, because this didn't start at Thanksgiving dinner. This started the day Claire was born, and I became invisible. I was 3 years old when my sister arrived. I don't remember much, but I remember my grandmother whispering to my aunt in the kitchen, "She's going to be the pretty one." And she was. Claire had blonde hair that curled perfectly, big blue eyes, and this laugh that made everyone in the room turn and smile. I had mousy brown hair, my father's narrow face, and a habit of reading in corners. If you've ever felt like the backup child in your own family, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. You're not alone. Growing up, Claire got piano lessons. I got a used keyboard from a garage sale. Claire got the bigger bedroom when we moved into the house that was now apparently hers. I got the one next to the laundry room, where I could hear the dryer rattling every night. When Claire graduated high school, my parents threw her a party with a rented tent in the backyard, a catered buffet, and 200 guests. When I graduated, with honors, by the way, we went to Olive Garden. Just the 4 of us. Claire spent the whole dinner talking about her new boyfriend. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was being sensitive. I went to state school on scholarships while Claire went to a private college in Colorado that cost $60,000 a year. I worked 2 jobs to cover my expenses. My parents covered hers. "You're so independent, Linda," my mother would say, like it was a compliment. Like I'd chosen it. I graduated with a degree in accounting. I got a job at a firm in Milwaukee. I bought a small condo with my own money. I was proud. I thought maybe, finally, they'd see me. They didn't. The patterns were small. That's the thing about being erased, it doesn't happen all at once. It's 1,000 tiny cuts. Claire stayed in Naperville after college. She moved into an apartment 10 minutes from our parents' house. She worked part-time at a boutique and called my mother every day. She went to their house for dinner 3 times a week. She was always there. I called every Sunday. I drove down for birthdays and holidays. I sent gifts. I tried. But I wasn't Claire. When my mother had knee surgery, Claire took a week off to help. I offered to come down, take time off work. "Oh, no, honey," my mother said. "Claire's got it covered. You're so busy. When my father turned 60, they had a party. A big one. I found out about it on Facebook. When I called, hurt and confused, my mother sighed. Linda, we thought you wouldn't want to drive down on a weeknight. It was just a small thing. The photos showed 40 people. A cake from the expensive bakery. Claire in the center of every shot, her arm around Dad. I started to pull back. Not dramatically. Just quietly. I stopped calling every Sunday. I let a birthday card arrive a day late. I spent Christmas with my boyfriend's family 1 year. No one noticed. Then, 3 years ago, I met Daniel. He was kind, steady, and worked in medical device sales. We got engaged after a year. I was 33. I was happy. I drove down to tell my parents in person. I wanted to do it right. I brought champagne. I practiced what I'd say in the car. When I walked in, Claire was already there. She was always there. I sat down in the living room, Daniel beside me, and I told them. We're engaged. My mother blinked. Oh, she said. That's wonderful, honey. My father nodded. Congratulations. There was a pause. Then my mother turned to Claire. Did you see the new curtains I picked up for the guest room? That was it. No hug. No tears. No questions about the ring or the proposal or the wedding. Daniel squeezed my hand in the car afterward. They're just reserved people, he said. I didn't tell him that when Claire got engaged 2 years earlier, my mother had cried for an hour and called everyone she knew. If this is hitting close to home, hit that like button. Let's make sure this story reaches someone who needs to hear it. We got married at a small venue in Milwaukee. 60 people. My parents came. They sat in the 3rd row. They left right after dinner, said they had a long drive. Claire was my maid of honor because my mother insisted it would mean so much to her. Claire showed up late to the rehearsal and spent the reception talking about her new boyfriend. I smiled through it all. I told myself I didn't care. But I did. 2 years into my marriage, Daniel and I started talking about buying a house. A real house, not a condo. We'd been saving. We had good credit. We were ready. I mentioned it at a family dinner. My father, for once, looked interested. That's a smart move, he said. Property values are strong right now. Claire frowned. You're going to stay in Milwaukee? Of course, I said. Our jobs are there. She exchanged a look with my mother. A look I pretended not to see. A month later, my parents called me. We need to talk to you about something, my father said. I thought maybe they wanted to help with a down payment. Claire had gotten money for her wedding, for her car, for a dozen other things. We're helping Claire buy a house, my father said. I was silent. She found a beautiful place in Wheaton, my mother added. It's close to us. And, well, Linda, you're doing so well on your own. We thought Claire needed the help more. They gave her $80,000. I said congratulations. I said I was happy for her. I hung up the phone and cried in my bathroom for an hour. Daniel found me on the floor. This isn't normal, he said. You know that, right? I knew. Which brings us back to Thanksgiving. The house, our house, the house I grew up in, the house my parents bought in 1988, was a 3-bedroom ranch worth about $500,000. It was paid off. It was their biggest asset. And Claire was getting it. All of it. Why? I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Claire answered before my parents could. Because I'm here, Linda. I'm the one who takes care of them. I'm the one who shows up. I show up, I said. Once a month, Claire shot back. I'm here every week. I help with the yard work. I take Mom to her appointments. I'm the one who's actually part of this family. My mother finally spoke. Linda, you have your own life. Your career, your husband. Claire needs this more than you do. I looked at my father. Dad? He cleared his throat. Your mother and I have discussed it. It's what we think is best. Best for who? I asked. No one answered. I stood up. My hands were shaking. I need some air. I walked out the back door into the cold November evening. The yard was dark except for the porch light. I could hear them inside, talking in low voices. Laughing. I stood there for 10 minutes. And then something shifted inside me. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to find out exactly what was going on. I'm an accountant. I'm good at finding things that don't add up. I started with social media. Claire posted everything online, every dinner, every shopping trip, every vacation. She'd been to Cancun twice in the past year. She drove a new Audi. She wore designer clothes. She worked part-time at a boutique. The math didn't work. I called my college roommate, Jenny, who worked in real estate in the northwest suburbs. Can you pull some records for me? I asked. What am I looking for? I want to know who owns my parents' house. And I want to know if there's been any recent activity on the deed. She called me back 3 days later. Linda, your parents refinanced the house 18 months ago. They took out a $200,000 home equity line of credit. My stomach dropped. What? They borrowed against the house. I can't tell you what they used it for, but that's a lot of money. Comment below if you've ever discovered a family secret that changed everything. I want to hear your stories. I started digging. I checked public records. I looked at county documents. And then I found it. The money didn't go to my parents. It went to Claire. I hired a private investigator. I know how that sounds. But I needed to know. His name was Marcus, and he was worth every penny. 2 weeks later, he sent me a report. Claire had been living beyond her means for years. The house my parents helped her buy? She'd refinanced it twice. She had $40,000 in credit card debt. She'd borrowed money from my parents 6 different times in the past 3 years. The Cancun trips? Paid for by my parents. The Audi? Co-signed by my father. The designer clothes? All funded by a credit card my mother's name was on. Claire wasn't taking care of my parents. She was bleeding them dry. And now they were giving her the house, the one asset they had left, because she'd convinced them she needed it more. I sat in my home office, staring at the report. Daniel stood in the doorway. What are you going to do? I looked up at him. I'm going to stop being invisible. I didn't confront Claire. I didn't call my parents. I did something better. I waited. Christmas was 4 weeks away. My parents hosted every year. Big dinner, extended family, the whole production. Claire always played hostess, flitting around in a new dress, taking credit for dishes my mother cooked. This year, I was going to attend. And I was going to bring receipts. I spent weeks preparing. I made copies of everything, the refinancing documents, the credit card statements I'd obtained through careful, legal means, the bank records showing transfers from my parents' account to Claire's. I also made a slideshow. 30 slides. Every trip, every purchase, every loan. All backed by documents. I didn't tell Daniel everything. I didn't want him to talk me out of it. If you're rooting for Linda right now, tap that subscribe button. You're going to want to see how this ends. On Christmas Eve, I loaded everything onto a thumb drive. I packed it in my purse along with the paper copies. I wore a red dress. I smiled in the mirror. I looked like someone who had nothing to lose. The house smelled like ham and cinnamon rolls. My aunts and uncles were already there. My cousins' kids were running through the living room. Claire was in the kitchen, wearing a cream-colored cashmere sweater, arranging cookies on a platter. She saw me and smiled. "Linda. You made it." "Wouldn't miss it," I said. Dinner was the usual chaos. 18 people crammed around 2 tables. My parents at the head, Claire beside them. Me at the far end, next to my uncle's new girlfriend. After dessert, my father stood up. "Before everyone leaves, I want to make an announcement." My heart started pounding. "As some of you know," he continued, "we've decided to pass the house on to Claire. We're getting older, and we want to make sure everything's taken care of. Claire's been so good to us, and we know she'll take care of this place." There was applause. Claire stood up, hugging my mother. I raised my hand. "Can I say something?" My father looked surprised. "Of course." I stood up. My voice was steady. "I just think everyone should know the full picture before we celebrate." Claire's smile faltered. "What?" I pulled out my phone. "Can I borrow the TV, Dad?" I made a little presentation. I connected my phone to the living room TV. The first slide appeared. A photo of Claire in Cancun, cocktail in hand, designer sunglasses on. "This is from March," I said. "A trip that cost $4,000. Paid for by Mom and Dad." The room went silent. The next slide. "This is the Audi in the driveway. $52,000. Co-signed by Dad. Claire hasn't made a payment in 4 months." My mother stood up. "Linda, what are you doing?" "I'm telling the truth," I said. Slide after slide. The credit card debt. The loans. The refinanced mortgage on Claire's house. The $200,000 line of credit my parents had taken out, money that went directly to Claire. My aunt gasped. My uncle leaned forward. "Mom, Dad," I said, turning to them. "You're giving her this house because you think she needs it. But she doesn't need it. She's already taken everything you have. And now you're giving her the last thing left." Claire's face was red. "You have no right." "I have every right," I said. "I'm your daughter. And I've watched you hand her everything while I got nothing." I stayed quiet because I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was being selfish. But I'm not wrong. I looked at my father. "You taught me to work hard, to be independent, to not ask for help. And I did all of that. I put myself through school. I built a life. I never asked you for a dime." My voice cracked. And my reward is being erased. If you've ever had to stand up for yourself in front of your whole family, let me know in the comments. This part was terrifying. No one spoke. My mother's face was pale. My father stared at the TV screen, where a bank statement showed a $15,000 transfer to Claire. Claire stood up. This is insane. You're making me look like... Like what? I said. Like someone who's been taking advantage of our parents for years? Because that's exactly what you've been doing. She grabbed her purse and stormed out. The front door slammed. The room erupted. My aunts started talking at once. My uncle demanded to see the documents. My mother sat down heavily, her hand over her mouth. My father looked at me. Is this all true? Every word, I said. I had it verified. He sank into his chair. We didn't realize. You didn't want to realize, I said quietly. Because it was easier to give her what she wanted than to say no. My mother started crying. We thought we were helping her. You were enabling her, I said. And cutting me out in the process. I left the documents on the table. I hugged my aunt, who whispered, I always knew something was off. I walked out into the cold December night. Daniel was waiting in the car. How'd it go? I sat down and closed the door. I have no idea. 3 days later, my father called. We need to talk, he said. I met them at a diner in Naperville. Neutral ground. My mother looked like she hadn't slept. My father looked 10 years older. We've spoken to a financial advisor, he said. And a lawyer. Claire, she's in a lot of trouble. I know, I said. We're not giving her the house, my mother said quietly. We're selling it. We need to pay off the line of credit and repair our finances. We didn't realize how bad things had gotten. I nodded. We're sorry, Linda, my father said. We failed you. For years. My mother reached across the table. I don't know how to fix this. I pulled my hand back. I don't know if you can. Hit that like button if you think Linda made the right choice. This next part was the hardest decision I've ever made. I didn't cut my parents off. But I set boundaries. I told them I needed space. I needed them to see a therapist, together and individually. I needed them to acknowledge not just what Claire had done, but what they had done. I needed them to see me. Claire stopped speaking to me. She moved out of state 6 months later, Arizona, I think. My parents helped her one last time, paying for the moving truck. Old habits. But things changed. Slowly. My mother started calling me. Not to talk about Claire or ask for favors. Just to talk. To ask about my life. To listen. My father sent me an email with a spreadsheet. A plan to pay me back for every major expense they'd covered for Claire but not for me. I know money doesn't fix it, he wrote. But it's a start. I cried when I read it. It's been 2 years since that Christmas. My parents sold the house. They moved into a smaller place, a condo in a retirement community. They're rebuilding their finances. They're going to therapy. I see them once a month. We have dinner. We talk. It's not perfect. Some days I'm still angry. Some days I mourn the childhood I didn't get, the parents I deserved. But I'm not invisible anymore. Here's what I learned: you can't force people to see you. But you can stop making yourself small for their comfort. You can stop waiting for them to choose you. Sometimes, the only way to save yourself is to tell the truth, even when it's messy, even when it hurts, even when it blows up everything you thought you knew. Claire made her choices. My parents made theirs. And I made mine. If this story meant something to you, subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And comment below, tell me your story. Tell me how you found your voice. Tell me you're still looking for it. We're all in this together. I'm Linda. And I'm not the backup child anymore. I'm just me. And that's finally enough. Some families are built on love. Some are built on obligation. And some are built on patterns so old, no one remembers how they started. But patterns can be broken. It just takes one person brave enough to say, not anymore. If you're that person in your family, the one who sees the truth, the one who's tired of being small, this is your sign. Tell your truth. Set your boundaries. Stop waiting for permission to take up space. You deserve to be seen.